people always say, well, you had it easy because you work for a black company. No, we didn't have it easy.
Yeah.
It was hard. It was very hard. Because as you know, in the media business, black eyeballs don't get valued.
Oh boy, I know.
They don't respect our opinions. And so you're digging every day. You're digging that hole every day, trying to figure it out how you put the dirt in. All right, I said, let me tell you something. Put yourself in his position.
Yeah.
You've been working your butt off for 20 plus years to build something. Somebody walks in the door and offers you $3 billion and he's over 60.
Right. You gonna say no to that?
You're not turning that down. You're not turning that down. There's nobody in hell that's gonna turn that down.
Right.
I'm not a great salesman. What I am good at, very good at, is building relationships. And when I build relationships, I build trust. And once I build trust, that opens the door. So I called him. I said, Byron, we need to talk, man. You keep bringing up this thing that, one of the reasons why you sued him is because of me. And I appreciate that. But I need some help. He said, listen. He said, let me get through this Comcast piece and get back to you. So he got through the Comcast piece and he called me. He said, Curtis, what do you want to do? I said, Byron, I need somebody to invest in the network. He said, well, what are you looking for? I said, well, if I could get $1 million, that would get me off the ground and I could get things moving. He said, well, let me tell you this.
He spent more than 4 decades shaping the media landscape. From his early work helping ESPN expand into a sports powerhouse, to driving BET's historic rise into a cultural institution, to building opportunities for representation across the industry. His journey has always been about opening doors and creating platforms where our stories could not only be told, but actually live. And today he's carrying that same mission forward as the president and co-founder of HBCU Go. This brother's real. He's cold-blooded. He's a pioneer. He's a mentor. And he's a visionary. And he's my special guest on this edition of the HBCU Sports Podcast with Kenn Rashad. I'm talking about my man, Curtis Symonds.
Thank you very much, Ken. That's a hell of an introduction, man. I need to frame that one, but that's a good one. That's a good one. I like that. I like that.
I'm glad, because I know you've probably done, I don't know how many untold interviews and so forth, but I got to ask, man, I mean, when someone reads your bio out loud, what comes to mind when you hear it? How does that impact you?
Ken, I really, it's a very good question, man. And I probably did not pay that much attention to it until like around 4 years ago, actually 3 to 4 years ago, when I got my Broadcasting Cable Hall of Fame award. And when I got the award then, I didn't really realize how big the award was. I mean, I thought it was just another, hey, Curtis, we want to honor you for development. But when I was telling people in the industry and friends and people who knew about it, and I said, hey, man, I'm getting honored at the Broadcasting Cable Hall of Fame, and people were like, do you know how big this thing is? And I think that's when it kind of hit me, on where I have raised my level. And my wife has been really the really architect of this whole mission, and one who has like really told me I've undervalued myself for years and years and years. And I never really kind of took that into heart until now, man. It's like you just read me off and more people read my resume off, and the first things out of their mouth is like, man, you're a legend, man. I didn't realize all that. And I'm like, hey, man, I was just out there grinding, trying to get my thing done, and that was all I could do, and so that was it right there, man. But it was, it's been a great journey, man, and I've enjoyed it. I started out in the business trying to find myself, and I started out with Continental Cablevision, Ohio, where I really was working for a lady who had been my Cub Scout teacher when I was a young kid. And she was a regional manager with Continental and brought me in the door. And that was really my jump start, man. And when I got that going, the opportunity to work for ESPN and having the network that I've met with a lot of people and built my network over years, and then jumped in with Bob Johnson and had one of the most unbelievable experiences in life of working for an entrepreneur that had a vision that was off the chain, and we were able to watch that thing grow over the 14 years I was there was fabulous. and now to work for another visionary, Byron Allen. I've had two big time visionaries that been in my pocket, man. That's really been able to uplift me and show me things that I needed to do to get better and how to
Hmm.
grow in the business.
Hmm.
And it's been a good ride, man. I'm enjoying the ride, bro. To be very truthful, I'm enjoying the ride. You
Yeah,
know,
well, one of the unique things about your story too is that you attended Central State in Ohio.
yes, sir. Very
You,
proud of that.
yeah,
Very proud.
are you from the region? What
Grew up right on the campus, Ken. My mother
really?
worked there for 40 years. My dad worked there for 50 years. My mother taught. She had physical education. My dad was in the maintenance. He painted.
Mm.
I literally was born in Bermuda, came over to the States, and grew up right on the campus with my mother and father. So I had I was very much embedded into the HBCU world.
Yeah.
And then, my wife is a graduate of Central State University. My sister's a graduate of Central State University. So a lot of my nephews and others, have really been, all finished up at Central. Central has been a molding block for me, and I give everything I can to Central State because it helped build me coming as a PE major out of Central State University into what I am today.
Yeah,
So I'm very proud of that.
it sounds an awful lot like my story. I attended Grambling, and my
Okay.
mother is from Grambling, and my
Okay.
grandparents worked on Grambling's campus for a combined 50 some odd years. My
Oh,
great
wow.
grandfather was a night watchman on Grambling's campus, so
Wow.
I
Yes.
know exactly what you mean by
What I'm
that.
talking about.
So given you said you were a PE major, so how do you
Mhm.
transition from there to getting into the TV space? Talk about that.
I was fortunate, Ken. I was just happened to be right place, right time. All I can tell you.
Hmm.
I got into the business really through, as I said, my first mentor, Janine Kozad in Continental Cablevision, Ohio. Brought me in at 24 years old as general manager of the cable system. I learned how to build a cable system, tear down a cable system. And the beauty of it was in my backyard. It's where I grew up at. So I knew everybody. That was even better, that better thing. And then from that, I networked with a lot of people because I was a general manager of the cable system. So all the programmers would come in and had to pitch me on from Showtime to MTV to Discovery Channel to others, like, why I should be carrying this service. And when I was doing it, I was networking, trying to get, where I grew up at was not going to be my life, so I
Hmm.
wanted to try to figure out how I could get a lift. And I always told them, hey, man, if something comes open, let me know. And fortunately for me, the ESPN, bullet hit out of Chicago, and I was able to get in the door. And from there, it just began to springboard for me because I was able to meet a lot of people because of the circle that I was in Chicago. The Chicago's the mecca of the
Right.
Midwest.
Yeah.
So everybody was drawn into Chicago. And it gave me a really good opening to really network with a lot of people across the world. And then it just how I stumbled up on Bob Johnson. We just were like, the one thing early on in the industry, there wasn't a lot of us.
Hmm.
So Bob at the cable show, it was like me and Bob talking to each other all the time. So we built a relationship over the years. We just kind of kicked in, and just out of the blue one day he called me and said, "Hey Curtis, look, man, I was in what they call the affiliate marketing area where that was all about driving the business, carrying the service. My job was to get the cable operator to carry ESPN, to carry BET. So Bob called me one day and said, "Hey, I'm looking for somebody to run all my affiliate marketing curves. I know I can't get you in, but you know, if you know somebody, let me know." And after I hung up with him, I went home and I thought that night because I hit the wall at ESPN, and I said, "Why not me? Why not I talk to him?" So I called him right back and said, "Bob, let's meet up, in DC and let's sit down and talk about this." And that's what we did. And it's amazing, man, because when you sit down with entertainers and athletes, the perception is one way.
Yeah.
But until you really sit down with the individual, you really learn a lot more about the individual that people
Right.
don't see.
Yeah.
And when I went to meet with Bob, people were telling me, "Oh man, don't mess with that guy. He's this, he's that, he's this." So I opened right up to him. I said, "Bob, listen, here's a story I get for you on you. You're supposed to be this way, that way, this way. What are you?" I said, "Kurt, I'm a businessman. I'm just trying to get my job done.
Right.
I'm trying to grow this business. And here's what I'm doing." And he showed me the vision. And he mapped it out exactly how we got there.
Yeah.
And that's why I have a lot of respect for him because he told me exactly what we were going to do. And we did everything he said in the right model, you know. And so people always say to me, how was it to work for Bob Johnson? I always tell them, greatest thing that ever happened to me,
Yeah.
because it gave me my chance. And the other thing that's amazing too, Ken, is that people always say, well, you had it easy because you work for a black company. No, we didn't have it easy.
Yeah.
It was hard. It was very
Hmm.
hard because, as you know, in the media business, black eyeballs don't get valued.
Oh boy, don't. Yeah, I know.
They don't respect our opinions, and so you're digging every day. You're digging that hole every day, trying to figure it out how you put the dirt in, you know. So it was a real interesting climb, man, and it was a good climb because it opened my eyes up
Right.
to a lot of things. To like now that I now have the opportunity to talk about HBCU Go, I've been through the rough stuff, so you can't get any rougher with that with me with BT, you know.
Yeah.
So I understand when I'm talking to a advertising agency, a marketing group, whatever. When I'm in front of them, I know where I'm coming from,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't hold back no punches. I'm gonna tell you exactly how I feel. Bottom line,
You mentioned, and I have to, you when you made the comment when you first met Bob Johnson and how he talked about how he just straight up said, I'm a businessman.
right,
And I'll never forget when the news came out when he sold BET to Viacom. I think it was
right,
something at the time about $3 billion.
yeah, and
And
you're
I
right.
remember,
That was the number. That was the
and
number.
I remember I guess you can call it some flack from the black community saying,
Oh, no
"Hey
question.
man, how come you didn't sell it to any? How come you didn't sell it to a black company?" And
Right.
I'll never forget his response because I couldn't find any brothers who had $3 billion.
I'm not. People. I see people all the time when it first happened. A lot of friends of mine called me and said, "Oh man, why did Bob sell the bike?" I said, "Let me tell you something. Put yourself in his position.
Yeah,
You've been working your butt off for 20 plus years to build something. Somebody walks in the door and offers you $3 billion, and he's over 60.
right. You gonna
No,
say no to that?
you're not turning that down."
In 1949, Paul Tank Younger, a fullback from Grambling, signed with the Los Angeles Rams as an undrafted free agent. He went on to become a four-time Pro Bowler and later became the NFL's first black front office executive. But the way he got there says even more. When the Rams sent a scout to sign him, the offer was for $4,000. Not because he wasn't worth more, but because they thought paying the minimum would improve his odds of just making the team. But that's when Grambling coach Eddie Robinson stepped in. He pushed back by saying, look, give him $6,000. And if he isn't good enough, cut him. That single moment mattered. It wasn't just about Tank Younger. It was about HBCUs demanding respect at a time when the rest of college football was still wrestling with integration. Stories like this are why I wrote the book HBCU Sports 101, a guide to understanding black college athletics. Because it's bigger than just stats and scores. It's about culture, legacy, and the people who changed the game. You can get your copy now at KennRashad.com, signed bundles, the ebook, and more, or pick it up on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other places where books are sold. Just click the link in the description below. Now back to the show.
There's nobody in hell that's going to turn that down.
Right.
What our problem is that our culture, the African American culture, just doesn't want to see somebody get uplifted.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they don't understand it. It's like, why? They want to know the why. And it's like, well, put yourself in his shoes.
Yeah.
Okay? $3 billion. You going to walk away with $3 billion? I don't think so. I don't think anybody in the right mind, Ken, is going to walk away. Because at the end of the day, as I told him when he told me about it, I said, Bob, look, congratulations, man. Look, you work hard. You don't know what, Father Time is undefeated. You don't know when he's going to bite the bullet. So why not enjoy life at the end of the day?
But you know what? But Curtis, it has to be known because you were key in playing that. As a matter of fact, I read the information that in your bio, and look, and that you grew revenue at BET from like 4% to 57%,
Right.
and that is extraordinary, especially in an industry that's not really known for moving quickly.
Right.
Talk about how you were able to do that
Well,
to scale that fast. I mean, that's extraordinary.
Ken, one of the things is I ride my staff now. I ride everybody who works with me. One of the things that the guy asked me the other day, said, Kirk, he said, Mr. Symonds, how are you so good of a salesman? I said, no, let me make you understand something. I'm not a great salesman. What I am good at, very good at, is building relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And when I build relationships, I build trust. And once I build trust, that opens the door. So when I'm coming in the door talking to Mr. K, because I had to go back in, Ken. When I came into BT, the affiliate marketing area was so messed up. It was off the chain. I mean, Bob had contracts on napkins, piece of papers, word of mouth. It was just all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, listen, man, we need to go to these certain cable operators, these big time cable operators at the time, reopen the contract. So I went into all the guys I knew from my ESPN days and said, listen, I need help. I need you guys to step up. If you don't step up, this service isn't going to last. And
Yeah.
here's what I need. And I said, I know I'm asking you to break the contract, but I need help. And because I started that, man, got him going. One of the biggest guy dropped TCI. That was the biggest one he dropped, which was a part owner of us anyway, minority owner of us. He was the first one to drop. Then Time Warner dropped. Then Cox dropped. So I got the top 10 right under my belt.
Mm.
So once I got the top 10 under my belt, everybody else just folded like a marshmallow. They definitely said, okay, Curtis, you're right. We need to do this. We need that. And that today is a norm that a lot of people haven't established, because the one thing that was the dagger in BT early was there wasn't no real ad revenue.
Yeah.
So not real ad revenue, along with not any sub revenue, put you in a bad situation. When I came in, man, you were calling the bank on Friday every 2 weeks saying, is that check good? Are we good for this week to put that in? But then by establishing that, we were able to have fixed revenue. And then we became a walking monster.
Mm.
Plus, we were able to get the black community. I mean, the one thing that we did not take enough advantage of, Ken, was the fact that we were the Obama of media.
Mm.
Everybody watched, tuned into us because it was our network. That's why people were upset when Bob sold it. They felt that's mine. How could he do this to something I own in the black community?
Mm.
That's why they looked at it. A lot of black people looked at that. So that was the thing that was the interesting part about it, because people took that attitude, and the one thing that Bob doesn't get enough credit for is that, we broke a lot of big time artists today.
Yeah.
A lot of big time artists that, I could name on several that, people like In Vogue, and many others, that if it wasn't for BT, they wouldn't have made as big as they got it.
Mm.
Michael Jackson wouldn't have made as big because MTV was cutting him off.
Yeah.
And we were the only ones playing the videos.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of things that BT really stepped up and created. And then we did a good job of doing things outside of music videos, like Teen Summit, BT
Yep.
News,
Right.
and really started attacking, what the black community need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what needs to go on. And we were digging into the stories that people didn't want to bring out,
Right. Yeah.
and that was really uplifting, so that was it was a beautiful climb, man. It was a beautiful climb.
So when you look at, and I can't help but I reflect on the fact that you talk about how you started in cable.
Yeah.
And when you look at where we are today,
Yep.
with pretty much everything now being a streaming platform.
Right.
When you look at your time at ESPN and at BET, given how media has changed, what lessons from those days do you still carry with you today now as the head of HBCU Go?
Well, I think that, I've been fortunate to understand how to market niche product.
Mm.
That was one of the biggest things that BT taught me, because I had to make the community understand it. We're not black entertainment programming, we're programming. So when we're talking to people now about HBCU Go, it's not just about historical black colleges. It's about programming that appeals across the board for anybody about historical black colleges and universities. And once people look at the big picture, and see exactly, because if you look at HBCUs, there is so much over the last 180 years of these historical black colleges. There's so much history that's built in that people don't know about until someone explains it. Look at the movie, Figures. That came out about the
Yep.
mathematician
Yep.
from West Virginia State. And John Glenn wouldn't go up on the air, which no one knew the story. He wouldn't go up unless she stamped the numbers. No one knew that story. No one in hell knew it, including myself,
Right.
to that movie. That this man said, I'm not going until she stamps these numbers. Okay? And how I land, how I land on the moon, how I come back to the United States.
Mm.
It's unbelievable, man. And so if you go by any historical black college today, Ken, you get a true education on the history that has transpired in each HBCU school. When you look at the HBCUs today, their story needs to be told. And that's one of the things that we're trying to do with HBCU Go.
Mm-hmm.
We had to start off in the business way by doing HBCU Sports. That we had to generate revenue. Okay. But now the next phase for us is to really build in the lifestyle, the education, the show the programming that features some of these schools and some of the greatest things that are coming out of these schools. Because it's just not the bands.
Yeah.
And
Right.
it's just not that. It's just
Right.
not that. It's
Right.
more than that. And when people see the brain thrust that is driving these universities, now people are starting to pay more attention to it.
Amazing.
It really is amazing. It really is amazing.
Amazing.
And it's even deeper because people don't realize, the average person doesn't realize the talent level that's at these universities. That's the most amazing thing. Let me tell you a story real quick. I was
Yeah.
at Tennessee State 2 years ago, about 2 or 3 years back in. I was just trying to rev up HBCU Go. And a good friend of mine, Joe Ritchie, is head of communications over at Tennessee. So he had me in class talking to the students, blah, 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 blah. There was one student there. I kind of kept my eye on him. I was watching him while I was talking. The guy I thought he was writing stuff down. But what he was doing, Ken, he was drawing a cartoon of what I was talking about. And at the end of my speech, I said, "Yo, young man," I said, "I gotta ask you a question because I've been watching you on the side of my eyes. What are you doing?" He said, "Mr. Symonds, I've been drawing this." And he comes up and shows me this. It was like a cartoon of the time. And I'm looking at this young man, the talent that he had, that no one knows about. And he was like a sophomore at the time. I don't know where he landed.
Yeah.
But he had an art for drawing that was off the chain, just off the chain. And I was saying when I got back home, I was telling everybody I could the story, because it was just amazing to me, that kind of talent sitting in the room and no one knows about it.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is phenomenal.
it is. It is.
So I definitely want to get into what HBCU Go is doing now, but I think it's important, and because I want to kind of paint a picture here. I want to make sure we put things in proper context.
Sure.
Talk about how HBCU Go became a member of the Byron Allen Media Group. Talk about that process and what you were going through at the time.
Let me tell you the story, man. It's a very interesting story. So years back, one night, I got a call from Charles King out of LA. We're very good friends. He said, "Curtis, you talked to Byron lately? Byron Allen?" I said, "No." He said, "Hey, man, he's at this Billboards award blowing you up." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, he's talking about you on da 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 da." So okay. As soon as I hung up, another person that works in his shop, still works with me now, by the name of Janice Aurora, calls me, and she works very closely with Byron. She said, "Curtis, I got to tell you this." I said, "Byron's up here blowing you up at this award thing." I said, "What?" She said, "I'm going to send you the link of this award," what he said. It was like 10:30 my time on the East Coast. I said, "Send it to me. Tell me where I need to go, and I'll watch it in the morning." So she sends it to me. So I go to it where she tells me to do it. So the lady's interviewing Byron, and she says, Miss Allen, can you tell me why you're suing Comcast for all this money? And he said, you want the real reason? She said, yeah. A friend of mine by the name of Curtis Symonds was trying to start an HBCU Sports channel, and they wouldn't give it to him. And that really pissed me off.
Mm.
So that's why I wanted to come after him. So I sat back. I said, let me just send Byron a thank you note for, kind of bringing it up, blah, blah, blah. And I sent him a note. About 3 months later, he's on the Breakfast Club. They asked him the same question. He gives them the same response because of Curtis Symonds. I said, whoa, wait a minute. I'm out on the street at the time trying to get this thing off the ground, and I'm digging dirt. I can't find nobody to give me help.
Right.
So I called him. I said, Byron, we need to talk, man. You keep bringing up this thing that, one of the reasons why you sued him is because of me, and I appreciate that. But I need some help. He said, listen. He said, let me get through this Comcast piece and get back to you. So he got through the Comcast piece, and he called me. He said, Curtis, what do you want to do? I said, Byron, I need somebody to invest in the network. He said, well, what are you looking for? I said, well, if I could get $1 million, that would get me off the ground, and I could get things moving. He said, well, let me tell you this. I don't invest, I buy.
Mm.
What? He said, yeah, I buy. I said, well, Byron, it's only me and 3 other guys. And I said, I don't really have no assets other than my website, He said, put a proposal together and let's get back together. So I whipped a proposal through the help of my co-founder at the time, Clint Evans, and we sent it back to Byron. Me and him went through it, and he's a quick mover. He said, Curtis, I'm going to buy your network. He said, I believe in what you're doing. And that's how we got started, man.
Wow.
That's how we got started.
Wow.
It was an incredible story. I mean,
Wow.
It just, the way I look at it, Ken, is that I believed in God to give me a break. I just said, I had a good feeling about it. And I always believed. I mean, I was at the crux. My wife was at the point, she's telling me, look, you don't get a job soon, we're in trouble. You need to figure this out, And I was like, just hold on. I'm gonna keep wheeling and dealing. Something's gonna happen. And sure enough, man,
Yeah.
I was fortunate. And
Phenomenal.
and people ask me every day, well, how did you and Byron hook up? And when they hear the story, they can't believe it. And now they look at the network and see how the network's growing. People are like, man, you hit a home run, man. You
Wow.
really hit a home run.
Wow.
So been
So
lucky.
you talk about the network, and one of the things that I think people may not necessarily appreciate about HBCU Go is the fact that it is a free service.
Yes.
And it's available for free.
Yes.
And when you look at where we are right now, we've got publications like the New York Times and the Washington Post and the LA Times sitting behind firewalls. We've got streaming services, mainstream streaming services that are charging for access to whether it, eliminates commercials or whatever the case may be. And yet you have I think it's safe to say a niche product like HBCU Go that caters to a very unique audience, and yet, and I guess I would say this, what I'm saying is you would be somewhat justified to even charge a fee, but for whatever reason, you're keeping the service free. Why is that so important for you?
That is something that, Byron has been a believer, and I'm with him on it, in providing service to our audience. And he feels very strongly that, at this point right now, that might change, but at this point right now, we want to be a free service.
Mm-hmm.
We always want to serve the public as a free domain. Okay. And if you look at all the properties we have, that's basically where we're at, and so he's very adamant. He built another service called Local Now, where we provide a bunch of local channels,
Right.
All different services on there. I mean, we have all kind of different channels on there, from the Pet Network to the Recipe Network, to all kind of, and they're all free. Because he's all about opening up the door. You got content, I want to give it to you. I want to give you space because he believes that you can build it. And I think we've done a great job doing that. He's done a great job doing it. And he's also trying to show, I think, the advertising community that you got to get behind this product. You got to step up. Quit going through the numbers. Quit going through this the way it is. Step up and really support us in the way it should be supported. Because I'm invested in content.
Yeah.
Why not invest in me?
Right. So let me ask you then, if that's the case, Curtis, given, since you say that, and given and I think we are actually seeing it, how the HBCU grow before our very eyes. Mm-hmm. Has it been, or is it still, or is it a hard sell to get advertisers to support the platform? Is that still a challenge now? Is it getting easier for you, or what?
I would say we're fighting every day. Sports is a hard. Sports is the mecca of television.
Yeah,
is the mecca. And what we've had to do, which my ad sales staff has really been, pushing. I mean, the first 2 years were really rough because we didn't have a lot of ad sales support coming in. But now, there's been a real commitment within the company to step up and really get behind us, which has really started to open more doors. And what we're trying to do on the flip side, Ken, is improve the content. Mm-hmm. Like this year alone, we've gone from like 2 classics to 5 classics.
Right.
And we've got 5 good classics, in nice cities. You take the New York Classic in New York, is a big one. You take the Truth for Service contract classic in DC.
In DC, yep.
You look at the Gulf Coast Classic in Mobile,
yep.
Big, and then you look at, now we're bringing a new one on, the Las Vegas Classic in Las Vegas with Jackson State and Grambling.
I'll be there.
So, I think that what this year to me, Ken, is our coming out year, because I think we've got a big enough schedule that's going to put us on the map, because people are going to look around and say, damn, they're airing these games and they're doing double headers every Saturday.
Yeah.
Every Saturday. And you're getting the best of the best. You're getting a great syndicated schedule, which is all broadcast all over the world. You're getting a cable schedule, which is going to be a very good schedule between SIC and CIAA. And then all of that all falls on HBCU Go, on the streaming service.
Yeah, yeah.
So, to me, the envelope has opened up. Now what we're doing is filling the envelope up.
Yeah.
And adding to it every week. We're trying to get better. Because one thing that I have tried to impress on my team, which they've done a hell of a job, with the resources we do, is that we got to continue to bring out the culture of Black college sports and the culture of HBCUs. When you have somebody like Charlie Neal, the legend of HBCU sports, he's the John Madden of Black college sports.
Without question.
You cannot go anywhere without recognizing his history. You got John Kelly, a former beat guy in Chicago, has made name for himself. Those two alone. You got Laurencia Moten, who her father played basketball at Syracuse. She comes out of a sports family. She played sports. She's on my sideline person. 3 big people. And then we go to our cable side, and you got James Hadnot, who is like incredible young man who's really, really growing in the business. We've got Nina Simone, who's running our sidelines, who comes out of Alabama State, play ball there, and then we're bouncing around on our analysts. We're kind of playing it, but we're growing attraction. I got more people wanting to come out of the Big Ten, come out of ACC, want to be part of this. Because they see it. They see what we're doing. We got Steve Weiss coming, doing some work for us, out of the NFL Network. And he's been instrumental in helping us build a relationship with the NFL Network.
I even noticed that you're launching a Player of the Year watch list as well.
Yes, we're
talk about that.
Well, it was something that I started last year. I said we got to come up with a Player of the Year in football. Player of the Year football on offense and defense. Mm-hmm. Because I really feel that, if we're in the circle of HBCUs and we're calling ourselves HBCU Go Sports, then we should be going to recognize the biggest guys offensively, defensively. Because the key here is that the more exposure we can give these young people, maybe the opportunities from the NFL might get better.
Mm.
That's my goal. That's my goal, Ken, is to open the door. It shouldn't be Carson Vincent, the only guy
Right.
Alabama A&M drafted. One guy drafted. Everybody else coming in free agent.
Free agent. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
free agent. And NFL smart. Because what they're doing is they know that these guys can play. They get them a free agent. They ain't got to put their money down. It's dumb money. Okay? They can't make them in the second or third round because they got to pay them something.
Yeah.
So they basically make these guys work twice as hard and then say, oh, by the way, this guy's pretty good. So he's going to make the 53 at the end of the day.
You know what? I used to really push back on this argument, but the more I hear about it, Curtis, the more I'm beginning to believe, because you made the comment about Carson Vincent being the only person drafted last year. And the more I think about it now, there really is something to be said about exposure for these HBCU athletes that they otherwise wouldn't get on the mainstream platforms. That really is important, isn't it?
It's very important. I mean, HBCU players are the Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
Okay? The Shedeur Sanders. They're like the NFL says, well, no, we're not doing that. Now, I was listening the other night. The Ravens were playing somebody, and all they were doing was raving about Carson Vincent, raving about this kid 6'7", 6'8", come out of Alabama. I mean, he might be one of the best linemen coming out of college, but unrecognized.
Yeah.
Okay, raving about this guy, but he's a sixth-round draft pick. Okay, and that's the sad part about it, because even though the Black College Football Foundation does their legacy bowl and all that, it's still not enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
To where people are paying more attention. That's the whole thing. That's why, what you're doing with your podcast is important, because we need to be telling more of the story, man. What's the why factor? What's the why factor? To me, it's amazing when I go to every year, when I go to the Black College Football Foundation's dinner in Atlanta and sit down with those former pros that came out of HBCUs. But that was a time when they were living, the agents and all the other people were living on those universities trying to find that niche. But then what happened, the PWI schools got smart and said, let me move this guy over to USC, Alabama. So then the HBCUs started losing the attraction because that top talent was being pushed over that way. And now it's twice as hard because you got to deal with the NIL. And you walk in the door, you're saying, well, I'm going to give you $800,000 to come play for me in Alabama. I can only give you over at Alabama State, I can only give you maybe $50,000.
Right.
Okay. And then, the thing is that every kid today in America wants to be seen. That's why I have so much admiration for Carson Vincent. When I was reading his story, I was impressed because he said, I was not looked at hard when I came out of high school. But after I made a name with myself at Alabama A&M, all of a sudden schools started coming at me, wanting me to transfer over and get in the NIL pool. But I knew where my cake was baked at.
Yeah.
So I wasn't going nowhere.
Yeah.
Okay? I wasn't going nowhere. Which I'm proud of a young man that steps up, Ken, and says something like that. Because today's world, I was telling somebody the other day, not an interview, but somebody and I were talking. And I said, in sports today, one of the big words that someone never talks about enough of is loyalty.
Yeah.
Loyalty. Where is loyalty? And I
Yeah.
coach high school basketball, and I see it all the time. If a kid, I've been working with kids for 5 years. Start with the 8th grade up to junior year. All of a sudden, somebody comes by, big name high school comes by, nationally ranked, blah 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 blah. Put a couple dollars in his pocket, help mom and dad out. He's out, gone.
Yeah.
Thanks, coach.
Yeah.
And they don't say, oh, well, he played such. No, they're gonna say wherever he's playing now.
Yeah.
So you just fade out the picture.
Yeah. An afterthought.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But in the case of Carson Vincent, he literally, and like you said, and I mentioned this in my book, he literally stated he was there because he wanted to be there.
No question.
And that is something that you just don't hear nowadays. I mean, there are kids that'll tell you, I want to be here. Well, I get it. You do what you got to do, but they're probably there because of that paycheck. Because we literally see kids that will go. Now it's to the point to where there are kids now who, like, over the span of 4 to 5 years, will play for 3 to 4 different schools over a 4-year period, and it's hard to keep up with them.
No question, because that word that I believe is the stamp of today's sports is loyalty.
Loyalty.
It's the stamp.
Yeah.
It's the stamp.
But does it exist? Curtis, does it exist though?
No, it doesn't.
I was going to say, because
it does. It does. That's what I'm talking about. Is that you can't trust anybody.
Yeah.
You can't trust anybody. And the sad part about it is it's a circle, because it's just as bad because you can't trust the coach. The coach could be out. He recruits you in, and then he tells you 2 months later, "Hey, you know what? I
I'm
got
out.
a good deal in Tennessee.
Right.
I got to leave."
Yeah.
And sitting there holding the bag like, "Well, coach, I came to play for you."
Right.
Sorry,
and there used to be a time where the kid, until now, the kid couldn't go anywhere
Bottom line,
because he was tied to a letter of intent,
you got it.
which no longer exists, by the way. But I'm just saying. Right.
So it's a real vice versa, kid. That it's sad, man, because sports has really become a pay to play.
Oh, yeah.
Pay to play.
We said all the time that amateurism no longer exists at the college level. It's gone. So Curtis, let me ask, because you've been real big, not only, and you mentioned you were a high school basketball coach.
Yes.
Was it you coach? Was it?
I coach at Paul VI High School.
Okay, right. So you've got some experience, obviously, working with these kids, at that level. Given where we are right now, I mean, what do we teach them? I mean, like you said, loyalty is kind of gone now. So what is the proper thing to, other than, stay out of trouble and continue to make right decisions? Is that about all we can tell these kids nowadays?
I think
or is there more?
I think that needs to happen, Ken, is that we need to create more lessons learned. Lessons learned. Because everybody thinks that you get the big payday, you're there. I was watching something the other day. I applauded Jason Williams. I think he's doing a big podcast now. And one of the things he talked about was, I want to break down my salary when I came out of Duke. And he said, I got paid millions. But by the time I paid my agent, took care of this is what I walked away with. Not a lot of money.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Right.
Okay. But a lot of people, when they hear the number, they think that person got all of this going on. So it's the lessons learned. And the sad part about it is, like, now you keep hearing every day about pros that are doing just stupid stuff. When the Morris brothers the other day writing $250,000 check to, fraud checks at casinos. And he's on ESPN. And what's ESPN paying him? He can't honor a check at the casino? And he's had like 12 years in the NBA. What's he done with his money? I mean, that's just hard to fathom at the end of the day. But that's where it is. And then
that's crazy.
It's real crazy, because you can go down the list of how many people have screwed up. Look at Sean Kemp. He barely survived.
Yeah. Wow.
Barely survived.
Yeah.
Barely surviving out there, man. And he earned a ton of money back in
Yeah.
the day.
Yeah. Was a great player.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I had an interesting conversation yesterday. I was in Minnesota playing with a golf tournament. and ran into Otis Birdsong.
Okay.
And Otis was great in the NBA.
Yeah.
But he was telling me, like, he said, Curtis, it's just hard to talk to these young kids today because they're so caught up in the money. It ain't even about the talent. It's the money. All they want to do is take it and run. And then they realize that it doesn't last forever. And that's when they got the wake up call. And the other problem, to your point earlier, which I like to see more of, is what's your plan B?
Yeah.
What's your plan B? I mean, what are you doing? Because what everybody doesn't learn in life, and I learned a little bit even in corporate America, not even in athletics. Once things go sideways, who's your friend?
Mm.
Who's your friend? Phone gets silent, calls get quiet, conversation gets short, hold down yards.
Indeed.
What you bringing to the table? You ain't bringing them to the table. So why am I around Curtis Symonds? He ain't bringing them to the table no more.
Yeah.
He was one time. I go out. He's throwing his card out. We did this. We get that. Oh, now he don't want to sit in the corner trying to get a meal.
Wow. Wow.
So that's the thing.
I'm gonna just a couple of questions. I don't want to keep you too much longer, but
sure, you good. Go ahead and roll, man. I got time.
Okay.
Good.
So the one thing that's always said about change is inevitable. All right.
Yes.
And we talk about your early days when you started in cable, and here we are with streaming. But I'm interested to see, based upon your years' experience in working in various capacities, BET, ESPN, and now with HBCU Go, where do you see media as it stands right now? What are we to expect in the future? I mean, I know that's hard to predict, but kind of based upon where you see things trending, any idea what we might be looking at, say, 5-10 years from now,
Well,
especially in this new age of AI. Any idea or any predictions on what we could possibly expect in, say, a 5 to 10 year period?
I think media is always evolving.
Mm-hmm.
You got to understand when I got into cable, and we were making the broadcast channels look like they were nothing back in the day, starting out, because it was change. You went from a 13 channel system to 100 plus channels.
Right.
Now what you're going to see in this new world is where it's going to be where choice is going to be your optimum. Where you're not going to be held to the corner where you've got to take 100 channels.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's going to be select what you want. Because
Mm.
the average person only watches 5 channels.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember years ago, Ken, my research guy from ESPN was the one that turned me on to it. He said, Curtis, think about this. Look at yourself in the mirror. How many channels do you use on a regular basis?
Great
And he
point.
said, I'm going to tell you what the number is. Like 5.
Yeah.
And I went home that night after that conversation with him, Ken, and he was right on the button. It was only like 5 channels I really focused on when I was on my cable system with 150 channels.
Wow.
That's really all I was watching and bouncing around through that. So I think that what you're going to see is going to evolve, Ken, is that selection is going to be the next move. I only want bop, bop, bop.
Right.
And I'm only going to pay $30 for it.
Right. Yeah.
Not every, with the guy we got sitting in the White House, where the economy is running, you watching your dollar on everything you do. Okay.
Right.
So if you can get 10 of your best channels for $30 and they can make them available, they're going to take it and run.
Wow.
I don't need all the extra. I'm not watching it. So why I need it? So I think what you're going to see down the road is, to your point earlier, shrinkage of channels and having where, because of the streaming, the app world would become very more advantageous because I can now get this app and I can get XYZ. That's why if you keep watching, you're seeing the partners coming together. Like look at Disney now. Underneath
Yeah.
Disney, you got Hulu, ESPN, all
Yeah.
bundled, all in
Right.
one.
Right.
So now you're getting the package deal. You just might need a Disney Channel, call it a day, and you get what you want. You got your movies, you got ESPN, you got your news or whatever. You got what you need.
Mm.
So
Right.
I think that the bundle concept from the apps will be the next move
Right. Right.
that you're gonna see. I think
Mm.
also, to your point earlier, I still think that price points will be important.
Mm-hmm.
Price points will be important because you want to grab volume to stay keep your business alive.
Right. Right.
So you outprice yourself. Look at pay per view. Pay per view has outpriced itself now.
Yeah.
It ain't the big monster it was 20 years ago. Boxing match you was paying $50 for. You
Right.
don't you don't see that no more.
Right.
Because what people do see, shit, why am I paying $50 for the boxing match? I can turn on ESPN at 12 o'clock and see what happens. All I need to do is see the highlights, and I'm
Right.
good. I don't need to watch nine. If
Right.
you need to go
Right.
9 rounds, I don't need to watch 9 rounds.
Yeah.
I just want the highlights, how he got pounded, call it a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that the price point will be a very, very important. I mean, that's why if you look at it now with Amazon and looking in, they're doing their move in NFL stuff,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
it's gonna be very interesting how they price it out. The cost factor, Ken, is going to be a big thing. I think that's going to be one of the big bullets that you're going to see, and I think also you're going to see more and more apps popping up with X amount of channels on them, to where it's going to be scrutinized in a way that you won't see the 50, the 100 channels anymore as
Mm-hmm.
it was
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to get that bill down to under 50.
Right.
Watch television
Right.
today.
Right.
So I think the cost factor is going to be, and that's why the cable operators are taking a beating now, because they're not, they're losing subscribers because of all
Right.
that.
Right.
And they're not doing anything, to really combat it, because it's too. I tried to tell them 30 years ago how this industry was going to go. I said in my last days at BT that it was going to whittle down to one or two major cable operators going to run the country. Number one. Number two, they're not going to be able to maintain, because the cost factor is going to beat the consumer up. Because everybody was jumping for joy when it came out, because I could get 100 channels and I got all of this. And then it
Yeah.
was like, why am I paying for all this? I'm paying too much dollar. I got a $200 bill.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, that's the kind of thing that at the end of the day, man, I think that's what you're going to see.
Right.
I think that's what you're going to see, Cam.
Allow me to pivot real quick, because
Sure.
one of the things that I enjoy probably more than anything as a entrepreneur, if you will, and a businessman, is kind of like the business side of sports, and especially as it relates to business within the HBCU space.
Right.
And so now that we are pretty much fully aware about the agreements that HBCU Go has with, the SWAC and the MEAC and all of the HBCU conferences and so forth, and given now that HBCU goes to the point to where now we're getting doubleheader Saturdays with football games. Talk about the complexity about that. How difficult is it creating these TV schedules, given the arrangements that some of these conferences have, say with like ESPN and so forth? Is that a difficult process?
Well, it was. When we first jumped into it in year one, it was very difficult, because we were the second kitty of the pick.
Yeah, like the second
So
tier.
that's when Dion had just popped into Jackson State.
Yeah.
And so, ESPN was stuck on Jackson State. So we got our SWAC deal done. Because of that, we couldn't get a Jackson State game at all. Couldn't get one at all. And that went on for like about 2 years. But the thing that I pride Byron and I pride my team on is that when I met with Byron, the one thing I said to him in day one, Ken, was like, look, when we put our product out there, we got to do quality work.
Yeah.
Because we only have one shot. And if we don't do quality work, First thing we're gonna say, what is this? What is HBCU Go? What is this? It's like a YouTube channel. But we've been able to impress the conferences on the quality of our work. That one of the things that I love all the time is that Charles McClellan, the commissioner of the SWAC, constantly uses this word. HBCU Go Sports is a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
We got in the door with ESPN, but what they do is just straight up game changer. And we've been able to improve our quality every year.
Yeah.
And that has now opened up the door to now people are now seeing what we're doing. And because we're doing so many games now, where you're not having to search around and try to figure out, well, what game is going on?
Yeah.
You know at 1 o'clock we got a game on, at 4 o'clock we got a game on. Okay? So, and you know the destination there. So by being able to establish that, and that was my biggest thing that I pushed to the commissioners, is I'm building a destination.
Yeah.
No longer are you trying to figure out, well, what time is Norfolk State or such playing? Are they playing 2 a.m? No. We're right here.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's helped us build a great relationships with the commissioners. And now it's opened up the door to where, the relationships I have with all the commissioners has helped us in scheduling. And now what's opening up more doors is that we're building a good background with the classics.
Yeah.
So now more and more classics want to do business with us now, because we're offering a lot more. We're not just coming and sitting in a truck, getting out. We're building it to where people appreciate it. And that's one of the things I'm so proud of my team, because they have really, really hit the butt. So, it's like this week coming up, we have our kickoff show coming up at noontime Eastern on August 23rd.
Yeah.
I wish we could have got our marketing out better to tell the world how good this show is, because it's a great show. It's a great show, Ken. And when you get 2 big interviews done by Steve Weish, who works at the NFL Network, who does an interview with Sean Payton, who talks about how he took Mississippi Valley's playbook back in his day with the Saints and built it into his playbook with the Saints.
Yeah.
And then you get a one-on-one with Carson Benson, who really tells his story better in live of how he feels now being with the Ravens and how it was coming up where he came out of Alabama. So, we're painting a good picture. And this is the story I'm selling to the advertisers, is that, my goal is this down the road. I want to create shoulder programming that begins to tell the real story of a lot of HBCUs at the end of the day. That's what I want to do, and I'm trying to convince the coach and other people that you should underwrite this.
Yeah.
Because it always amazes me. I'm watching ESPN last night, and I'm looking at, the Chiefs story, how they rose, and it was brought to you by State Farm.
Right.
Why can't I get that? Why can't I get that? I should get that. Because I got a story to tell.
Yeah, I was going to say you got a story to tell as well. Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I think that's one of the things that, our scheduling has got a lot better. That's why I said this year's schedule, Ken, is the best schedule that we've had in 4 years. And I applaud my team in their selections, because I think we've got some power pack games on both the syndication side and the cable side that's going to make people open their mouth, drop their mouth, do whatever they can, and say, wow, this HBCU Go is not playing.
Yeah.
They've got some real stuff here, and they're featuring some great games.
Yeah. This is probably one of the more, and I honestly, this is probably one of the more highly anticipated seasons that I've experienced, because, and if you're not supposed to talk about this, forgive me, but I mean, we've already seen what works HBCU Go is doing. And then you may be familiar with the fact that, Charles McClellan of the SWAC just announced the release of SWAC TV.
Yeah.
And so, and the reason why I'm so excited about it, because when I looked at all of these games, I looked at kind of like the key games that I might be interested in and so forth. Sure. And it now appears that just about every single HBCU football game, especially at D1 level, almost, is going to be televised or streamed on some platform that's easy to access and is going to be free. And I think that says a lot about where we are right now and how we're leveraging these opportunities and these platforms to, like you say, not only tell our story, but to showcase the student athletes who actually attend these HBCUs.
Well,
Talk about that for a moment.
I think that Charles is one of the smartest guys I've met in this business.
Yeah.
And he's really grown from Texas Southern, from Prairie View to Texas Southern to now commissioner. Everywhere he's gone, he's made a big stamp, and he thinks ahead. And what he's built with the SWAC TV is definitely a great partnership we're going to take advantage of with HBCU Go. Because that's our goal. Our goal is to feature all these games. So what we're also going to do is, as he features some of those games on Saturdays, we're going to roll some of those games, replay some of those games during the week on HBCU Go.
Yeah.
So if you missed it on Saturday, you still got opportunity to see the game. So we built a great relationship, over the years that Charles has really, really stepped out there. And I think SWAC TV is going to be a great complement to HBCU Go. Yeah. And I think that because of our partnership over the years, we got something special that I think, trust me on this, Ken, I think somebody's going to watch it very closely and try to figure out how we did what we do. Bottom line.
And try to replicate it or duplicate it, huh?
You might be right. You might be right. I tell you one thing, to your point, it's definitely going to give these HBCU schools exposure.
Yeah.
That is you could never, you're not going to be able to say anymore, I can't find it. Let's put it that way.
Right.
It's going to be there. It's going to be there if you want to see it.
Last question for you, brother, and I'm going to let you go. Without question, you are you've set a trend. You're trailblazer in this industry in terms of what you've been able to do in this work.
I appreciate that.
Obviously, look, and I want to, but years from now, when we, I don't know if you know that, I recently wrote a book about HBCU and the importance of media in HBCU sports.
I gotta get that. Is that on Amazon?
It is on Amazon. It is on Amazon.
What's the title? Let me write down. What's the title?
It's called HBCU Sports 101. But you know what? I'm gonna send you a copy. I'm gonna send you an autograph copy. Don't worry about it, brother.
Okay.
I got you.
Right.
And in that book, I talk about the importance of media and HBCU and HBCU being in a position to tell our own stories.
Yeah.
And without question, you've done that. And so my question to you is that years from now, what would you like to be said about you as it relates to not only what you've done in your work over the span of your lifetime, but even with the work you are doing right now with HBCU Go?
Ken, let me say this to you, man. I'm going to answer that question real quick for you. Years ago, about 2 years ago, my mother at 94 years old was on the last thread. And I was in a hospital room. She could still talk, And one thing that she said to me was something that is now laid in my head tremendously. She said, "Tell me something, Curtis. What's going to be your legacy when you leave the ground?" And it made me think, what is that going to be? Because a lot of people like yourself, Ken, talk about trailblazers. But I think that the bigger thing for me, Ken, is that when I look back on my career and my life, I just want to be a person recognized as doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. Being able to give back to people who helped give me an opportunity. That's what I'm all about, man. I tell people all the time, people say, yeah, you been president of this, president. I said, let me tell you something. I'm still Curtis Symonds from Wilberforce, Ohio. Okay? That's who I am. Because people can't never believe it. Like, when I was 50 years old, I was still playing touch football with a bunch of buddies of mine. We had a BT football team, touch football. And people couldn't believe, here I am, the president of BT in one area, and I'm playing touch football with guys janitors and all kind of stuff.
Right.
But that's just how I was. That's just how I am, and that's how I always will be. Because I will never change, Ken, from who I am. Title doesn't mean anything to me. about what's in my heart. And my heart is the most important thing to me. You know, I love my wife. I love my kids. You know, I'm not always the right thing. I don't always do the right thing. I try to do it, but I don't always not do the right thing at the right time at times. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's all about what are you doing to give back?
Mm.
And that's where I'm at, man. That's where I'm
Yeah.
at. You know,
Right.
I just want to be remembered, the guy that, upheld what he talked about. So that's me, man, at the end of the day.
He is
That's,
Curtis Symonds,
man, I
the
appreciate it.
co-founder and president of HBCU Go. Brother, I can't thank you enough for taking the time to rap with me today. It
Ken,
has
it's been a
been
pleasure,
enlightening.
man.
It has been
It's been a pleasure.
enlightening. And I hope it, well, I'm pretty certain this will be enlightening to our audience as well. So, brother, I appreciate you. I can't thank you enough.
I hope to see you out to a game soon,
Oh,
man.
man, you're going to
Hope
see
we
me.
can catch each other
We
up.
this won't
We'll
be the
definitely
last time we
appreciate it.
talk.
You said you were coming to the Vegas, so we'll
Oh, well, I'll
definitely
be
make
in.
sure we see each other there.
Yeah, let me tell you something. My wife will tell you, I look for excuses to come to Vegas.
I ain't mad at you.
I
I ain't
look for
mad at
excuses to
you.
come to Vegas, so that's a perfect excuse for me to go. And I'm a Grambling guy too, so no, that's
Oh,
not
okay,
going to be
great.
hard for me to do at all. So,
All
but
right,
no,
man.
man,
Well,
I appreciate
I
you.
look forward to running into you, man. No
Yeah,
question.
same here.